So I grew up in Barnsley, and whenever anyone asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up, I'd say, I want to go to the Royal College of Art in Kensington Gore. I had no idea where Kensington Gore was. I didn't care where it was. I just wanted to go there. I had a book about the Royal College of Art, and I loved the people in it, and I wanted to be one of those people. It took me quite a long time to get there. I was 34 by the time I actually managed it. I had marriage and children and stuff. And when I graduated, I went straight to work at Wieden & Kennedy, and my first project was to come up with a window display at their advertising agency. And basically, we made tube tunnels where rats could run around, and the rats were named after famous entrepreneurs, my favourite being Sir Alan. But you can see why he's my favourite. He was absolutely lovely, and eventually the rats went to live on a farm, but not the proverbial farm. They actually did go and live on a farm. When I graduated, when I left that job, I then had to make some money really fast. I was really poor, and my boyfriend at the time was a printer. And I had loads of drawings of Kate Moss. I'd been drawing her since the early 90s, and I was like, okay, I'll put her into a book. But what sort of book? I know, a colouring book. He can print it for free, and that's where it all started, really. I'm now going to talk about two men who've mean quite a lot to me. One is Ryan Gosling. It was New Year's Day 2012. I was incredibly hungover, laid on the sofa with a blanket, sipping water, and I watched this film. By the end of it, I was emotionally drained and completely in love. And the next day, I went to the studio and made a Ryan Gosling colouring book. It was featured on countless TV shows and magazines, and that's when my business actually really became a business. That's when my husband had to leave his job and come and work for my business. And people often colour in my colouring books and send me their drawings. I think Jenna, who's age 31 from USA, actually loves Ryan Gosling more than I did. And apparently, when you eat carbs, Ryan Gosling cries. Another man who means a lot to me is Chris Tucker, who was shocked by the horror colouring book that he found on Tesco's website. He was looking for a present for his grandson, and Tesco had mistakenly put this in the children's section. It's basically a colouring book called Colour Me Good. And it's full of drawings from horror films. And from that, I got a full page in The Sun. I was the second biggest read story on BBC News. And for the next 2 days, I was just countless doing radio interview after radio interview. But it was absolutely brilliant. And Chris Tucker, everyone wants to complain about any of my stuff again, he's welcome to do it. So I became known as the colouring book lady, really, and since then I've been asked to do some commission. One was for Dead Mouse, the electronic Canadian superstar. This never actually happened. After I did the whole colouring book, I actually bottled out because his contract was just too contracty and I wouldn't sign it. And the other one was for MTV New York. Bored with being the colouring book lady a little bit, I started venturing out a little bit. This is a card game that I made called C in Double, which basically features duplicates of basically just things that I like, people and things that I really like, just really nicely illustrated. And it's basically the game where you turn 2 cards over and you find a pair. I've done 4 books that have been published by other publishers, Pavilion in London and Penguin in New York. My latest one is How to Make Art, which is basically everything that I've learned so far, really. There's a bit of screen printing in there, lots of inspiration and colouring in techniques, where to get your work seen, that sort of thing. There's also a bit of painting. I love painting with gouache. And like Peter, I also love old knitting patterns, so maybe I should see Peter about doing some paintings of his patterns. I've done quite a few of these knitting pattern pictures. I really, really like them. I like to work really quickly in terms of what's going on in the world. Literally, the day that Kate Moss was in the news for insulting a Ryanair pilot, by 1 o'clock that afternoon, these were on my website, ready to buy, these temporary tattoos. And we've sold quite a lot of those so far. It's really nice that I can drop everything and just come up with an idea really quickly and then just do it. Last year, I really leaped out of my comfort zone and did my first children's book called Pearl Power. Today, the second book, Pearl Power and the Toy Problem, comes out, although it's only just gone to the printer, so that's going to be about a week late. They're basically books that empower children, especially little girls, I think, because the idea came about that my daughter felt that boys became doctors and girls became nurses, and this infuriated me, obviously. And I just had to do something to tackle the stereotypes that children are given. So I also made a children's feminist T-shirt. The first 60 or so were screen printed just around the corner by myself and my son and my assistant. And now they're screen printed elsewhere, a lot better as well. I got lots of adults asking for these as well, and there was Tim Burgess wearing his new favourite T-shirt. Another thing that comes out today is a game called Dead Celeb that my company is publishing. It's the macabre game of stardom gone wrong, which is basically, it's kind of like Top Trumps, but with celebrities who have died. And they're scored on popularity, age at death, tragic factor, and exit method. It's not actually as bad as it sounds. It's actually beautifully illustrated. It looks really, really smart. It's a gorgeous little game. It'll be lovely to play as a parlour game at Christmas with a couple of sherries, and people will learn quite a lot. And this is my latest thing. I was lucky enough to be invited to design an Oyster card wallet for Transport of London and Design Junction, and this is my design. All the colours in it represent the tube lines that are going to be open late at night, which is why I've basically got lots of party women. And that's it.